How's it going, YouTube? Robert here, bringing you guys another Digimon deck profile, and today this is my favorite deck of the EX3 format, bar none. This is Aegisdramon Fish, or Fish Spam, or whatever you want to call it. This is one of the most fun decks that I have played this format. Between this and Dark Knightmon, it's insane. These are the two decks that I've been jamming recently. This deck has some weaknesses. It has some good perks to it, and it actually plays decently well into the meta, but there are a few things that it is a little weak against, and we're going to go over that in just a second. So without further ado, let's go over the card by card. Alright guys, so into the card by card. What we're going to start off with, of course, is going to be our babies. We have 4 copies of Bukamon. Bukamon is, of course, the card that we only want to see. We only want the Bukamon egg. You need that memory gain to continue your plays a lot of the times, and it really does help for memory manipulation as well. So I'm not going to worry about a fifth egg. This is one of the few decks that I think needs just the 4 eggs. So we're just running 4 copies of Bukamon. Next up, we're going to run 4 copies of Gomamon, looking for some alt arts if anybody wants to hit a brother up. But Gomamon is, of course, one of your pot of greeds on legs. You play it out from your effects all the time, so you're always going to get the draw 2 very consistently, as well as a 3K body. And then it's good fodder to Digivolve on top of. So we run 4 copies of the Gomamon. It's one of the best ones. And then, in my opinion, the even better one is going to be the EX3 Crabmon. So for those of you that don't know, what Crabmon does is on play gives one of your Digimon jamming. And then, whenever you do play it out from sources, you may tuck a level 5 or lower blue Digimon underneath that Digimon as its source. I have screwed this effect up. I didn't read all these cards all the way. I had typical card gamer syndrome and didn't read all the cards. I was just slotting this underneath any of my blue Digimon. It has to be under the Digimon you target with jamming. So just know that because of this, you probably will not see the gameplay video I had recorded seeing the light of day because I cheated. I may be a judge, but I'm not perfect if I don't read all the cards. But this way you can prep your board for more things, so you can get more Digimon underneath that stack, and then it actually makes it a little bit safer that way. Sure, it doesn't make it, there's other ways that you can play around it, but this makes Crabmon actually insanely better in my opinion. I truly enjoy Crabmon. It makes it safer to play with the card, and the Crabmon is one of the Digimon you always want to have. You'll see at the end of the video when I go over a little bit of a combo. Next level 3 we have is going to be 2 or 3 copies of Madoki Betamon. It just so happens it is also a fishy type Digimon. Where it doesn't get played out by any effects because it's an amphibian, but it's a level 3, so it gets played out by all the effects that way. It's a memory blocker. There's enough stuff going around, such as Bloomlordmon, and then any deck that runs any memory boost or anything like that. Madoki Betamon really helps against that, so definitely run 3 copies of that. I'm also running 2 copies of Syakomon. Originally, shoutouts to TrainingBot from Primitive Server. I think he frequents a couple other ones like Wong's as well, but from Primitive Server, TrainingBot really did help me out because I didn't have any product yet, and I had kind of brainstormed a list, but I like to brainstorm with a couple of other people. That way it doesn't just feel like, if my list comes out, may not be ideal, but it also helps me bounce a little stuff off of some other people. He gave me a list, and this is where the changes originally kind of came up, where the Syakomon, he was running it as 3 of, I believe. 2 of seems pretty fine, especially for my locals, but Syakomon actually comes in a lot more clutch than you may think. It helps a lot with the Bloomlordmon match, but also at the same time, it helps out with the Jesmon matchup. So the thing about the Jesmon matchup is they really need that new option card from the starter deck to help reduce the Digivolution cost. Syakomon stops that. It stops Digisorption, so it stops a lot of things from that matchup for the Bloom Hydra, and then it also helps stop if you run into the occasional Angel deck or any DNA Digivolve deck, because you can have this out and you can keep the Godamon from reducing your Digivolution cost, making it easier for them to ramp up into their effects. So definitely like 2 Syakomon. I couldn't fit a 3rd one in, and I'm not dropping the consistency under all of these because Madoki is too strong, but I think depending on what you think you might see in the meta, switching these 2, going from 3-2 to 3-2 or to 2-3 might actually be worthwhile. Next up, we're going to go into our level 4s. We have 4 copies of Aegisdramon. This one is your good combo extender. It gives a lot of aggression as well. It's also not the worst card to end on sometimes. So for those of you that don't know, this is another EX3 card. Whenever it's played, it gives one of your Digimon blocker. It was played out from sources. You get to unsuspend that Digimon. So you can end a turn and end it with a big body that can help block another big body, or it can just be a nice chump blocker that you might need. You can also have Tobiyumon. This is just your vanilla fish. We call it Basic Fish. Shoutouts to Pfeiffer from my locals. Basic Fish is the MVP for multiple reasons, of course. One, it's a sea animal, so we can play it out. The Aegisdramon is an aquatic, so it can play out from the aqua effect as well. But Tobiyumon also has the nice benefit of being a 1-cost Evo and a 3-cost hard drop. Sure, it's small at 3k, but the fact that it is also a 3 to hard drop sometimes comes in clutch so that we can end on another card that I'll go over in a little bit. And then last but not least, we have 2 copies of Sealamon. The reason why we don't run more Sealamon and we run more Tobiyumon is mainly because of the 3-cost thing that I was mentioning. The fact that you can hard play it for 3 also helps out, but Sealamon also does the same benefit that you really, most of the time you need the Tobiyumon to do, is by digivolving for 1 so that you can have access to your level 3s and your sources again. The other thing that makes Tobiyumon a little bit better than Sealamon is Sealamon, even though this deck is the fish deck and can play out a lot of fish Digimon, it's an ancient fish and the deck can't play out ancient fish Digimon. It can only play out sea animals, Aquas, or Aegisdramon, or level 3s, and Sealamon is none of those things. So the only thing we really have is our 1 of level 6 that I'll get over when we get to that point, and that's the only way we're playing out the Sealamon. Next up, we're going to move into our level 5s. We have 4 copies of Mega Aegisdramon. This is your bread and butter level 5 that you always want to see to start off your combos. This card lets you end at the combo at the end of the video on a board of 5 Digimon with only 3 memory at the start of the turn. Insanely strong card. It does everything you want it to do. So for those of you that don't know, another EX3 card that's new. When attacking, you may play out a level 3 Digimon from one of your Digimon's Digivolution cards without paying its memory cost. So this doesn't have to be underneath him. And then it has the same effect as its inheritable, but the inheritable is only once per turn. The main effect is actually not a once per turn, so there are a couple of ways where you can really make this work out pretty well, but it doesn't come up very often. But it can, because of the Aegisdramon. You could restand it with the Aegisdramon, but that requires you to have basically a second one of these out on the field and just be able to do it again in a follow-up turn. It takes a little bit longer to set up, but it is doable, and you can activate this effect multiple times. Next up, we have 3 copies of Waymon. Excuse me. Waymon is going to be another one of the Digimon that is sometimes lackluster, but can also help out. After realizing my mistake with Crabmon and stuff, I actually think that Waymon becomes a little bit more viable. So what Waymon does, another BT7 card that hasn't seen the light of day in a while, is whenever you play it out, or on play, you get to play at a level 3 Digimon. And then I believe if you play it from underneath one of your sources, it might not even require you to play it from underneath one of your sources. Yeah, no, you may play a level 3 Digimon from one of your Digimon's Digivolution cards, then if you do, you can play a blue Digimon from your hand underneath that Digimon. So here is the little bit of a stipulation. It's a cost to play something underneath the sources. It's a cost to play out something from underneath one of your level 4s. So this was the issue that I always had with Waymon, where since we don't play King Waymon, and I'll mention that here in a second, since we don't play King Waymon, it's a little bit more of a pain to get the Waymon out, and then you also have to make sure you have a level 3 in one of your card's sources to do this effect. It's not really the hardest thing now that I've realized how to work with Crabmon a little bit better compared to before when I would get a little overzealous with it, but sometimes you don't always have a level 3 slotted underneath something because you want to make sure you have something to Digivolve and back, and if you don't play out a level 3, then you also don't get to slot the extra source. So it's kind of rough that way, but at the same time, it is something that is needed. In worst case scenario, it's a level 5 to activate off of your Plesiomon's effect. So we still play 3, but like I said, we don't play King Waymon. The big reason we don't play King Waymon is because it's a 4 to Evo, and most of the time, we're only going to be able to start with like 3 memory, and its effect only triggers on attack. And when that's the case, it's not really the best. And then you also have to build kind of like a suboptimal stack with a Waymon in source instead of the Mega Aegisdramon. So in practice, King Waymon just never really came up. I would love to make it work. If King Waymon was a 3 cost to Digivolve, the card would be insanely better. Much better card. But it's a 4 cost, so we can't really get there. Last level 5 we have is 1 copy of Chimeramon. This is going to be one of the reasons why Tobiyumon as a 3 cost comes in very clutch. You can usually get plenty of like one of these other level 4s out, and then you can hard slam a Tobiyumon to go ahead, swing in for game with a DNA Digivolve. Also, any of these, you could also Digivolve for 1 on top of one of your rookies that you play out, and then of course DNA Digivolve that way as well. So really do enjoy the 1 of Chimeramon. It's a good way to get rid of Pomumon. Pomumon's one of the problem cards that we have for the deck or Pomumon and Pillowmon, I guess, because they don't let you play out Digimon by effects. So Chimeramon's a good way to deal with that. They're only 2k, so either a DNA Digivolve or even a hard Digivolve, all your blues, and then you have a white, so then you're always going to be able to give neg 2k. So it also helps you get around some big bodies. I've also had to have to deal with that. Had a 15k, gave it neg 2, and then they couldn't swing over my Aegisdramon. Next up into our level 6s, we have 4 copies of Plesiomon. Plesiomon is one of the go-to cards. This is the card that you really need to have. So what Plesiomon does is when Digivolving, you can play at a level 3 or a level 4 with the Aqua traits that we've mentioned in the past. And then when you do, you can, then you slot underneath a Digimon, a blue Digimon card from your hand underneath one of its sources. Same thing is kind of like Crabmon where it targets this one, except instead of targeting the Digimon that was played, it targets specifically the Plesiomon. So it just kind of builds upon your Plesiomon stack. You can even slot a second Plesiomon and then trigger the Plesiomon multiple times. From its inheritable, which is all turns once per turn. This is part of the errata list. So everything else on this card, other than the Aqua and everything that's all messed up, the thing about Plesiomon's inheritable is the inheritable is optional. So that means it can trigger, and then you can choose not to activate it. Say if you play out a rookie, but you want to you're going to follow it up the next turn or with another play by playing out a level 5 that you want to bounce something, you can choose not to activate this. It reads mandatory right now to where whenever you play out a Digimon from sources, you bottom deck Digimon of that exact level. It still needs to be that exact level, but you can choose not to activate it for when you play out something like a rookie, when you want to play out follow up on the next turn or that next effect that you have to go off to play at a level 5, then you can activate it then and trigger it that way. So it's nice to know that this is not mandatory. It is an optional effect, so you can choose not to activate it so you can get around it. This effect also helps us get rid of some level 6s on the field, because we do have a level 6 that we can play out by the effect, and that is going to be 2 copies of Metal Aegisdramon. This is an old card, BT 2 or 1.0 for us here in North America or in the English card game, that says on play bounce 2 of your opponent's level 4 or lower Digimon, and then it's got a your turn effect, but we don't care about the your turn effect. It's really never comes up almost ever. It's mainly just the fact that it is a level 6 Aegisdramon, so our Aegisdramon can play it, and then also it can bounce something. Bounce 2 things. Our flex spot. This is one of the flex spot that lets us actually play the Sealamon, is 1 copy of Leopardmon. When Digivolving, you can play a level 4 Digimon from your one of your Digimon's Digivolution cards, and then all of your level 4 lower Digimon have jamming. So this is the flex spot. I originally at one point was playing a Slayerdramon, kind of similar to Training Bot's list, but at the same time, Slayerdramon was nice, but it never came up, and it's one of the ways that I had to deal with the Pomumon, but not all the time, and I found out another way to deal with Pomumon for mine, and I think Leopardmon is pretty good because with Bukamon, you can Digivolve into this guy and then not pass turn, especially if you have a Memory Tamer or something out, and then it brings you basically Digivolve for only 3. And then you can swing in with him, or he's another target to Digivolve on top of. You can get all your guys jamming, and then if you want to swing in with him, you can, or you can Digivolve into an Aegis and then play out one of your other guys, like an Aegisdramon, and then end on a big blocker. So that is why we play Leopardmon. The fact that they all get jamming is sometimes makes it hard for your opponent to deal with it. Last but not least, for our Digimon, we have 4 copies of the big fish cyborg man himself, Aegisdramon. So the thing about Aegisdramon is it's not a fish itself, it is a cyborg, so you can't really, if you tuck it, you're never getting it out because we don't play Kaiser Nail on the deck, spoiler alert. But it has the when Digivolving effect to play out a level 3 or a Seadra or one of the Aqua types, the sea animals or Aquas. This lets us basically play anything in the deck aside from a few key cards, of course, like your Chimeramon, your Leopardmon, and your Plesiomon. But other than that, I mean, it really just plays out everything. You don't really even want to play out the Plesiomon. You play out any of these guys. This is the way that we deal with a bunch of bodies with the Metal Aegisdramon. We can get a level 5 out. We can get another level 5 out with our Waymon. We can get some of our other level 4s out that we need, or maybe give it, get some draw power or something like that. All sorts of plays that you can do. Play a Crabmon, add sources underneath something else, so that way you can also continue your plays from there, or maybe play around Death Xmon and stuff like that. That way, it's got the opponent's turn effect as well, which is whenever they play a Digimon, you can activate one of Aegisdramon's when Digivolving effects. So it doesn't matter how they play the Digimon, they can hard play it, they can play it by an effect. Either way, whenever they play something, it's a little bit of interaction. You can play out something. So if they are getting a little greedy, maybe they have the Aegisdramon, they spend Aegisdramon to play out a guy, you can go ahead, trigger the effect of Aegisdramon, play out a level 5, bounce the bottom deck the Aegisdramon, and now their turn kind of just shuts down because now they don't really have a good way around it. Same thing as like if they Digivolve into old Savior Huckmon from BT7, they go ahead, play out a Sistermon with the Savior Huckmon effect. You can do bounce out level 5. Maybe you don't want to deal with that Sistermon particularly, and you don't want to bounce it back to hand. Play it at level 3 so you can bounce the Sistermon, or level 4 depending on which Sistermon it is. So Aegisdramon, of course, needs it at a 4 of. I didn't have 4 at one point, not just Alt-Arts in general, I just didn't have 4. And I was playing 3, and that was bad. Do not play 3. play for. Next up, I'm going to do both of these at the same time. We're going to do our 2 Tamers and our memory boosts. I'm running 2 and 3. 2 Davis, 3 memory boost. I can definitely see the reasoning for switching back and forth. But since the deck gains memory from the Bukamon, you don't always need the Davis. It is nice, but I've found a lot of the times that the memory boost is really, really good, especially for digging 4. Even though the Davis constantly sets you to 3, sometimes you need that little... Sometimes it's actually better to have less memory so that you can memory choke a little bit more effectively. This, of course, all goes out the window if they have a memory Tamer, but this has been the ratio that I've liked pretty well. 3 boost and 2 Davis. I can definitely see people, one of the changes that you can make if you wanted to is go 3 Davis, 2 boost. Either or. I personally like this ratio, but somebody else may like the other one depending on how they play. So, next up, 2 Forbidden Trident. Shoutouts to Moonrose for this. He was watching me do some playtesting, and before I had changed the list from what I had seen, which the list that I had really seen to kind of go off of, because I wasn't thinking about Pomumon especially, was the Kakaitis Breath. I was like, you know, I actually had thought about Kakaitis Breath as well, and it was like, I agree with that. You know, it's a good security bomb. But really, security bombs are a little too sacky. I've tried to, in decks like this, I've tried to move away from security bombs, but I didn't have anything else to think of at the time, just trying to put it together right before locals. And I, you know, or when I was doing that playtesting, and I never run into Pomumon until this playtesting game, and I didn't have the Chimeramon to deal with the Pomumon. And other than that, I was just dead in the water. I had a Kakaitis Breath in hand, but I'm not going to give 7 memory when I'm at 2, give them back, and then they just, cool, Digivolve up and drop a Pomumon, and then I'm just screwed anyway, you know? But then he mentioned something about Forbidden Trident, and it was something I hadn't thought about since BT6, back in the day when this card came out, which is main when one of your Digimon gets plus 2 KDP, and then it gains, when attacking, you can bounce a level 3 Digimon to your opponent's hand. This is really nice to deal with the Pomumon and also deal with another board. The big example that I kind of had to go off of was when I was doing the playtesting after I made the Trident, or put the Trident in, had a Aegisdramon. They had an Aegisdramon that they had ended on by suspending the Aegisdramon, playing out a body, suspending that body, or they didn't even suspend the body, and then they just ended on a Pomumon. So they had a Pomumon, a level 3 or something like that, and a suspended Aegisdramon. And I didn't really have anything to deal with it, but since I had the Forbidden Trident and the Aegisdramon, the way that you can stack your when attacking effects after you apply it to the Aegisdramon is you activate, they both trigger at the same time, and you activate them in your order. So if you don't activate the Aegisdramon effect first, activate Forbidden Trident first, bounce the Pomumon, and then you can swing, as you swing over the Aegisdramon, you also have 9 KDP. So you're able to get over the Aegisdramon, you're able to bounce the Pomumon, and then you can continue your plays from there by going to something like a Plesiomon, playing out another Digimon, going into an Aegisdramon, playing out another Digimon, and then it doesn't matter if they play Pomumon, because it's just like, I'm just going to kill it, like, instantly. So, the Forbidden Trident has been insane. I will not remove this from the deck as long as Pomumon and stuff like that is in the deck. Pomumon and Pillowmons are around. Forbidden Trident stays. Last but not least, we have Ice Wall. I'm not going to explain it. Ice Wall. Shoutouts to Team Ice Wall Primitive. This is Permanent's playmat when I judged this Permutational. Shoutouts to them. But yeah, that's the deck. The deck is insanely fun. Being able to constantly spawn out bodies. Now that I know exactly how Plesiomon and Crabmon work, they're both worse and better at the same time, because then you can be a little bit safer with your sources by putting them underneath one stack, but also at the same time you can also be a little bit more dangerous. So that makes Crabmon even better to play out from sources sometimes than the Gomamon for the draw, you know. So, but yeah, that's it. Now let's go ahead and hop over into that combo part I wanted to show you guys. Alrighty guys, so what I wanted to go over here is a little bit of a combo for this deck. This happens more often than you may think, and it requires, you know, it looks like it requires a lot of cards in hand. It actually doesn't. Some of these are extraneous, but so the way this deck works is, of course, you're playing out a bunch of sources, and all you need is a little bit of 3 memory, and we're going to end on 5 cards right here. So I don't usually do combos a whole lot, because not a lot of decks really need combos, but this is specifically one that would benefits from a good combo. So here you'll swing the Aegisdramon. Aegisdramon's effect will let us play out a level 3. We'll go ahead, target out the Crabmon, play out the Crabmon from our sources. This will then trigger the Bukamon effect and the Crabmon. We choose to activate the Bukamon first. We'll go ahead and gain the memory from the Bukamon. Now Crabmon targets, give Aegisdramon jamming. That's nice and all, and then we also have to activate the effect of Crabmon. So here's kind of where you can decide where you want to go with this. You can slot underneath any level 5 Digimon underneath the Crabmon. So what we're going to do here is decide to go with the Waymon first off. It doesn't really matter which one you decide to put under. Actually, For safety, this is where it's kind of requires a little bit of thought. You can go ahead, slide underneath the Gomamon. That way you have another level 3 to play if you need to. And then our Aegisdramon, go ahead, live. We're not going to have any security bombs for this example. It'll go ahead, live its jamming check. And at this point, we want to go ahead and Digivolve into the Plesiomon. Pass memory over, or go to 1. And then this triggers Plesiomon's effect. We want to maybe get an extra check-in. So here we'll go ahead, play out the Aegisdramon. We're going to give Plesiomon blocker. This will then trigger Aegisdramon to go ahead and let us unsuspend the Plesiomon. But don't forget, I'm getting ahead of myself. We also have the Plesiomon effect. We have to slot underneath a blue Digimon. This is the best point to slot underneath the Aegisdramon or the Metal Seedramon, because this is the only way we're going to get it underneath from this set of combos. And now we can go ahead swing again with our Plesiomon. But if you swing now, the only thing you can play out is a Gomamon. Now, with Gomamon on the field, it's not the worst thing, but it can't set our board up as much as we want to. So using the Tabiyumon, we'll go ahead and Digivolve on top of the Crabmon, go to 1 memory or 0 memory. Now we have a Crabmon that we can play out. Now you got to remember Crabmon's effect as well. So what we're going to go here is we're going to swing the Plesiomon at security. We're going to trigger the effect of Crabmon, play out Crabmon from our source. And then Crabmon is going to go ahead and trigger its effect. We don't need to give the Plesiomon jamming. It really doesn't matter. But we do want to slot underneath another Digimon from another effect. So here for Crabmon, we're going to either target Aegisdramon or Tabiyumon. It really doesn't matter. Personally, I would go with Aegisdramon most of the time because this is the one that you really want to Digivolve on top of a lot more so you can get it out. And then also it's a little bit bigger than the Tabiyumon, so you can't have something like a Guilmon X antibody deleted. So here, we'll go ahead, tug underneath the Waymon, underneath the Aegisdramon, give it jamming. That doesn't really matter. Plesiomon will then finish its attack. Now we're at 0 memory, and we want to go ahead, deal with the rest of our opponent's board. Say they have a level 6 and a level 5 out, or 2 level 4s out. We're going to go ahead and Digivolve an Aegis for 4 memory. We have a Seedramon to play out. We'll play out the Metal Seedramon. Metal Seedramon is then going to bounce 2 of their level 4s, and the effect of Plesiomon is going to bottom deck their level 6. And just like that, you have made a board that has plenty of stuff you can play out from the Plesiomon. You have some Crabmon, you have a Aegisdramon with a source for a Waymon, so you can follow that up with, say, activating another Aegisdramon effect, or if your opponent plays out another Aegisdramon. And then you have a Metal Seedramon, which is also not only a level 6 big body, it can Digivolve into another Aegisdramon to again activate any of its effects. So that's the bread and butter combo of this deck. Surprisingly easy to pull off, but actually, other than the fact that it makes you very weak to Crimson Blaze and Death X for cheap, it's insane to pull off. So if they don't have a Death X, then it sucks to suck. But even if they do have a Death X, they Digivolve you. What do you end on? They wipe these 2 out, but then you end on a Mega Seedramon, or Metal Seedramon, a Waymon, and a Plesiomon. That just lets you go back up again. And then you can basically spawn out a board to chump the deletion effect of the of the Death X. So this is really what I love to do with the deck. That's with 3 memory too. So don't usually go over combos, but it is really helpful for this deck. Alrighty guys, and that's going to be it for what I have for you today on the video. I hope you guys enjoy the deck list and play it as much as I have enjoyed it. It is one of the most fun I've had with a Digimon deck, especially in the current meta. It's like between this and Dark Knightmon, I've just been having a blast. I don't really play a whole bunch of meta recently, like I may have mentioned already, but so I do like playing some of the off-meta stuff, but it turns out some of the off-meta stuff actually plays pretty well into the meta if you know how to play around the matchups pretty well. So all that being said, if you guys did enjoy the content, be sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new here. We do deck profiles, gameplay videos, and mainly ruling videos. That's my biggest thing. So hit that notification bell so you know when my videos and stuff go live. If you have any remarks you want to make about the deck, maybe changes you've made, maybe stuff that you've had success with, maybe you played it and you've enjoyed it, or you use this list, be sure to leave a comment down below. I love seeing those comments. And other than that, guys, I thank you so much. I believe the channel recently just hit 2,100 subscribers. That is insane to me. Thank you guys for the continued support. Hope to get some more content out to you guys so that we can, so that you can get some of that interesting ruling content and some of these other fun decks as well to play around with. So with all that being said, guys, I'm done rambling for the day. I hope you guys have an awesome week. I'll catch you in the next one. Later.